Quick control of 3 hives. Good afternoon, dear friends. Today I want to show you a quick control of bee families using several modes of Apivox Smart Monitor. It is the beginning of July now, the honey harvest is underway, the bees fly well, but to find out their condition, to find out how the honey collection is going, whether they brought enough honey or not, whether this honey will be used by them for food and for brood rearing, or the beekeeper will receive it in the form of marketable honey, this is very hard to say. We will now show how this can be done quickly and without problems. It is evening now, it is rather cool, it has just rained, and of course, in such conditions, it is rather problematic to open the hives for inspection. The bees will be angry now, and this is not convenient for the beekeeper, since it is quite cold and damp. And our device is an excellent solution in order to find out now the state of bee colonies. We are launching the app. After starting, it works in monitoring mode. Its task is to show us the sounds of bees, that is, to show that the device has contact with bees. We recommend that you always carry out control from the upper part of the hive, where sounds from the porch are not heard. So we do it like this. We open the hive. We remove the foam insulation. Next is a thin synthetic insulation. It's very quiet outside now. The evening is quiet, there are no external noises. Therefore, it is quite enough to simply put the device on this insulation and to check, using the screen, that the device hears the bees. Then you can use the modes which you need. At first, we will check the bees using general state control mode in a minimum interval of 15 seconds. Now the bees are working well and we can confidently say that this interval will be enough for an adequate diagnosis. So we select the general state control mode, select the control interval of 15 seconds, and press the start button. After a delay of 5 seconds, the device will start measuring. We'll have to wait those 15 seconds. The measurement begins. Diagnostics says that they are quite active in hive works and work on honey collection of medium strength in the family. The intensity is not very high. It's evening, and that's probably fair enough. Next, we can check for whom the honey is brought, only for the family of bees, or for the beekeeper too. To do this, we do the following: press the reset button, reset the general state control mode and switch the app to honey harvest readiness control mode. Now we have to wait for a while. This mode is made in the form of a graph, and you need to wait until the data is collected to build it. We put the video on pause and in a couple of minutes we will return to the device. So, not much time has passed, but the graph is already quite indicative. So we'll take a look at it right now. We have a chart in front of us. As you can see, it is white and is located at the very bottom of the screen far from the zero red line. This means that the family is ready for collection of marketable honey. That is, the family brought marketable honey for the beekeeper. This means that the bees brought enough honey to feed themselves and the brood, and process the rest of it, and put it in stores in the form of marketable honey. In short, there is honey in marketable amounts. This is clearly visible on the chart. So, we saw the graph, the device showed that the family is doing great work at the honey collection. This was shown by both control modes used by us, showing that the bees work for the beekeeper, bringing marketable honey. Now we will show control procedure in one more mode, but this is just to demonstrate it to you. This is swarming control mode. Now, in July, there can be no swarming and the mode is usually not used. We will just show you what the diagnosis looks like when the colony is not going to shift into a swarming state. We turn off honey harvest readiness control mode and turn on the swarming control mode. We, as before, will put the device simply on top of the synthetic canvas. The device hears bees well, and now we will see what it will show. This is swarming control mode. You can see that both needles of the device are far in the green zone, which clearly indicates the absence of any signs of the colony preparing for swarming. The colony works perfectly, and the tendency of the mood of the bees and the strength of this trend clearly indicate the absence of a swarming mood in the colony. The family is in working condition and there are no problems here. As you can see, we can get results without even opening the thermal insulation of the hive. The evening is quiet, and the colonies are strong and the bees are quite loud. Well, let's quickly check the rest of the hives. So we have finished checking the colony for swarming. Now we switch the mode and go quickly through the two remaining hives without further ado, and show you their status.
Лишних комментариев мы пройдемся по еще двум ульям и покажем точно так же, что показывают эти ульи, и прокомментируем соответственно состояние и диагностику прибора.
We are closing the hive. As you can see, we did not have to open it at all in order to find out in what condition the bee family was. Only the roof was opened. But, even if we examined it completely, we would hardly know what the bees do with the brought honey. After all, having brought it to the hive, they can eat it themselves, they can feed the brood, and they can also put the excess in honeycombs. And the beekeeper will not be able to quickly understand this if he does not use our device. We begin the control of the next hive. Here we will do it a little differently. We will put the device more vertically. This will allow you to see the control process, and at the same time the microphone is directed towards the bees. We start swarming control mode. So we see the screen of the device in swarming control mode. This is the second hive. We placed the device in such a way as to see its screen with the results of the control process. It is quite natural that there are no hints of swarming here. Family is working. Both arrows of the device are in the green zone.
Даже никаких вариантов, так сказать, о роении здесь нет. Сейчас перейдем к следующему режиму. Значит, теперь мы
Now let's move on to the next mode. We will exit swarming control mode and enter the general state control mode. We will leave the measurement interval at 15 seconds. We press start, and the process begins. Now the device listens to the bees for 15 seconds and draws its own conclusions from what it hears. As you can see, there is a pause from 5 to 15 seconds so that the device can be placed in the right place and covered. So, here is the diagnostic result. The performance of in-hive works, and we know that this family has a lot of brood and, accordingly, there are many in-hive works. There are also quite active works on the collection and processing of nectar. That is, work is underway at honey collection. There is no delivery of nectar now, but its processing goes on as usual. Moreover, this work is quite intensive. We see that honey collection is going on and the bees are working with nectar in the hive. Now I would like to know whether the bees work for themselves or whether we will also get marketable honey. Now let's switch to honey harvest readiness control mode. We reset the results, and move on to the next mode. Now, after some time, The graph will again show us what is happening in this family, so a couple of minutes passed. It is not needed to continue control anymore. We see a white graph at the very bottom of the graphics screen. The family is ready for collection of marketable honey. Bees collect enough honey to keep it for future use. We can confidently say that part of brought honey goes to honey shops. So this family does a great job at honey collection. There is enough honey for both the bees and beekeeper. Let's repeat again. We see a white graph, which means that bee family is working on obtaining marketable honey. Excellent result. The graph is at the very bottom of the screen, which means that the work is very intensive and it is brought a sufficient amount of honey. Reset the previous mode, close the roof of the second hive. As you can see, there is no need to inspect the hives and the frames in order to find out the state of the bee colony. Thanks to Apivox Smart Monitor, everything is clear without this procedure. We open the third hive, remove the foam insulation, leaving only a thin synthetic insulation that does not interfere with the passage of sound. Moreover, in our hive, the inner cover is specially made to help acoustic control. It has a grate that prevents the passage of bees, but does not interfere with hearing the sounds of the family. Therefore, the audibility is very good. In principle, this is the same as putting the device on the frames covered with an opaque cloth. It's practically the same. The main task of this coating, the fabric and our insulating material, is to prevent the bees from seeing the light, and they would not have arousal that would spoil the whole diagnostics. So this is the most important thing, that the bees should not see the light. Otherwise, their behavior immediately changes. So, we turn on general state control mode, the measurement interval is 15 seconds, we press the start button and put the device in such a way that it hears the bees. We have 5 seconds to finish this procedure and, as a last resort, cover the device and the hive with insulation or a roof for better isolation the device from external sounds, in order the sound of bees become the main one for it. Here is the result. The device has finished the measurement process. Here is a diagnosis: work on a honey collection of medium strength, the intensity of work is not high, there is a slight excitation. Yes, it is also clearly visible on the chart that work is underway with honey, good signals in the range associated with honey collection, and there is excitement, possibly associated with honey collection. In general, the work is good. Now let's check the family using honey harvest readiness control mode. Let's check for whom the bees work, for themselves or for us. This will take us again a couple of minutes. Here, we see the first movements of the chart, and we can already say with confidence that the honey collection is in the interests of the beekeeper. The graph is white, the signal is strong enough. This means that the bees work for marketable honey. That's all. In principle, we can finish our check. This is already quite a sufficient description of the state of the family. But, if you want more confidence, then you can of course continue measuring for another 5 to 7 minutes and you will see how the graph changes. But in principle, this is enough to understand that the work is going well. So, we conducted a test in honey harvest readiness control mode. While we were talking, the device collected some more data and confirmed the result that the bees work for the beekeeper, collecting marketable honey as well. Now let's quickly check the colony for swarming. Well, of course it shouldn't be. But, nevertheless, we will once again show the result of control. We selected the mode and placed the device in the hive. After about 5 to 7 seconds, the arrows will be setted. As we said, swarming is not expected. The arrows of the device are in the green zone. And they are at the maximum distance to the right. This is a trend for good, active work, not of preparation for swarming. A swarming state, of course, is not expected. We can show the indicators larger. The arrows point to the right into the green zone. No swarming state is foreseen. Naturally, there should be no swarming now. Now is a main honey harvest. So, our control is over. We can turn off the device. You can see how quickly and how conveniently you can work in the apiary using our device, or a smartphone and an application, if you like it better, Apivox Smart Monitor. We can close our hive, the last of 3 we have tested. Now we perfectly understand condition of all 3 families that we tested in our experimental apiary. We see that they all work perfectly, they are in excellent working condition, there are no hints of an approaching swarming state, the bees work on honey collection, bringing marketable honey. As you can see, for this we do not have to open the hives. It is not necessary to inspect the frames, but at the same time we know for sure that the bees give us marketable honey. So, we are finishing our little film. There will definitely be more films from different apiaries, with different situations that happen to bees. And in this case, we showed you the usual quick control of a small apiary, carried out using a Apivox Smart Monitor. All the best to you, see you soon.